Welcome to episode number 2 of Riskology, where we seek to have conversation around important risk management and insurance topics. I'm your host, Corbin Jackson. Thanks for joining. Now, before I welcome our guest today, I would like to mention that the ideas and opinions I share on this show are mine alone and not to reflect in any way on my employer. Joining us on the show today is Becky Robinson, the risk manager for Hobby Lobby. She has 27 plus years of risk management experience at Hobby Lobby, presented at numerous industry events, including the National RIMS Conference, and appeared in multiple articles, including being featured in Business Insurance Magazine. In this episode, we gain insight into her background, Hobby Lobby's insurance program, the importance of taking an active role in legislation, and the greatest lesson she has learned while managing risk. Welcome, Becky Robinson. I appreciate you being on the show today and taking time to be here.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Corbin.
Absolutely. I think we met a couple of years ago at a RIMS meeting, a local chapter meeting here, and I've just enjoyed getting to know you over the past few years and hearing your perspective on things at RIMS chapter events and other events as well. So I appreciate you being here.
Oh, thanks. I love going to the RIMS events. I just don't have a lot of time for it these days, but I do enjoy the luncheons and the networking as well.
No, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about your background, how you got involved in risk management and insurance.
So I always tell people it's by chance.
Okay.
I was actually a student full-time working for an accounting firm that did the audit work for Hobby Lobby, and was working actually 2 jobs and going to school part-time. Hobby Lobby was looking for a way to manage their workers' comp program. They were in assigned risk pools, which, for those that don't know that, means that their overall risk couldn't be insured. And so they were in all these assigned pools. And so they were looking for opportunities to really manage that, and looked to me to actually establish their workers' comp program back in 1992. So I came to Hobby. Took on the workers' comp piece. We structured the program more from a customer service side to align with Hobby Lobby's mission, if you will. Look at the employees as more of a resource for the company, right, and taking care of the employees. And so from that perspective, the department was really developed as an employee advocate for workers' comp, and it's expanded from there. So finished school, got my finance degree from UCO.
Okay.
It's went on to my MBA, but circumstances happened, and so I actually didn't finish the MBA at UCO. But
Okay.
yeah.
So since 1992, you've seen a lot transpire over the years and really developed the risk management program here at Hobby Lobby. Can you give us an idea of the scope and size of Hobby Lobby as an organization? I mean, I see the trucks drive around all the time and here in Oklahoma City. So if you could just elaborate on that a little bit, that'd be great.
Yeah, so the program's massive. Certainly when I started, we had just 42 store locations. We were down the street in a small little warehouse. I think we had 2 warehouses at the time. We are now over 10 million square feet in the state of Oklahoma at this campus here, having one distribution center that services nearly 900 Hobby Lobby locations.
Wow.
So we are the largest single employer under one single-story square roof, if you will. We have multiple buildings here. We have e-commerce here. We have manufacturing here. We have a construction division, a transportation division. What I've learned from Hobby over the years is we like to, if we can do something better, then we'll do it internally. We'll, take that task on, like different products or things like that we've manufactured from time to time. And it provides more of an opportunity to work closely with the vendors and work with the employees. So with that, it's been such a tremendous growth from 42 locations to 900.
Right.
And we have quite a bit large risk management program to kind of accommodate that. We've taken some claims in-house and things like that. So,
Okay. How would you say risk management impacts company culture?
um, it depends on the risk tolerance and the ability for a company to what level of involvement they want with risk. We take the perspective of customer service, and so with that, we've pulled away from a lot of our vendors and handled things internally. So we handle like some workers' comp claims in-house. We handle all of our liability claims in-house. And that gives us the opportunity to further Hobby Lobby's reputation from a customer service standpoint. A lot of companies in my industry are not privately held, but because we are, we have a lot of opportunity to foster the leader's mission down to our role as well in risk management. And so we always want to leave, for example, like the customer, we want to leave the customer with a good experience at Hobby. We may deny a claim, but we may give them a gift card or something to that
Right.
aspect.
Okay. Does that affect safety culture with regard to employees?
Yeah, for sure. So within my department, we have a safety division. We have 3 divisions in my department. We have the occupational injury, which is the work comp, and then the liability, and then we have safety as well. We also have a staff attorney on site within risk management. But the safety plays a broader role. We have different exposures with the campus. We have roughly 6,500 employees, so the safety's geared towards what the campus does, from a distribution center, manufacturing, and what have you. At the store level, we do mandatory training before employees start their position. We have video computer-based learning training so that we can capture the employee's personnel number and make sure that we are doing the level of training based on what the store needs, and if there's additional required training or state-specific training, if you will, we can control that by having our safety person kind of oversee all of that.
Okay. Yeah, and I've just heard from just an outside perspective, the culture at Hobby is, really well done and really well managed. So
we have great leadership. I mean, my boss is a prime example of that, and of course the Greens. They have supported a lot of our initiatives here in risk, and have given us some faith and support in some of those initiatives that might be a little bit different for other retailers. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So over the years, there's been a lot of change as far as different risk exposures, mm-hmm. especially in the retail industry with cyber and other things like that. How have you stayed on top of managing those up-and-coming emerging risks, and what are some ways that you do to educate yourself to learn more about those?
I mean, everything's changing from day to day. We only recently got into the cyber risk program, if you will, about 3 years ago. We've looked at it from time to time, but really, I don't know, there was a lot of work in the application, and at a time when cyber was pretty expensive, but it's been very competitive now, and quite honestly, with respect to the cyber, it was really initiated by our CIO, and some of the education that she'd been receiving and some of the needs that she wanted to ensure that we had protection over. So I will get some of that information from other leaders within the organization, but in order to just kind of stay abreast and make sure that I'm doing what I need to do on behalf of the company, my education's through like the periodicals and email communication. I also participate in some benchmark studies with some of our brokers. But over the years, I've developed really great friendships with my peers. So, I can bounce things off other risk managers in larger areas like Dallas or New York and those areas that, that might have different exposures than we would from, or maybe some different considerations that we might not be looking at from an Oklahoma perspective. Right. So I really think my peers have been probably my best resource, and then the benchmarking. But okay. The periodicals, we subscribe to a lot of different articles. It's kind of hard to stay on top of all of that, but when it's an area of concern, I mean, you're getting hit, on a regular basis about it. And so we'll pick up on it from there. And then the carriers, anytime there's a policy form change, I really try to stay engaged in that process and make sure that we're not missing any, or we don't have any gaps in coverage, if you will. Every time there's a new cat exposure, or
Right.
the hurricanes that come through, then you'll see a little bit of wording changes in the policy. So you really just need to kind of stay up and understand that, make sure that when those issues arise, that you understand what your coverage is. So a lot of different resources, but it's just it's a constant thing to stay up engaged in.
Yeah, absolutely. So it seems primarily just building that network of mentors or experts around you or other peers in the industry from a risk management standpoint is important.
Yeah.
You mentioned the CIO earlier
Mm-hmm.
when implementing the cyber program. For those that might be listening that are looking to do the same, how important is that communication between the technology department and the risk management department when you're putting a program like that together?
Huge.
Okay.
Huge. Yeah, there's a lot of terminology I don't understand. We've had roundtables and discussions with the underwriters, and I'll bring my CIO in, and I take diligent notes so I can, follow up on some terminology that I'm not familiar with, so that, if there are exclusions in the policy or maybe we're getting some additional coverages, I want to make sure it fits her needs. So it's really significant to have those relationships with other leaders so that you're getting the protection that they're desiring.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And understanding that risk. I mean, I'm so insurance focused and claims. I understand that like the back of my hand, but the IT component is a lot more unique to just.
It's a whole different language, right?
It is, right? Yeah.
So you mentioned that your background's really in claims and workers' comp side as well, and I know you've been involved from a legislative standpoint a little bit on that side of things. Could you explain how important it is for an employer to be involved from a legislative standpoint?
Oh, yeah. I think more than anything, the risk department needs to understand what the potential changes are that are coming down. We subscribe to a lot of different newsletters, and a lot of attorneys keep us engaged on different legislative actions on a national scale. But I do think it's involved at least to have that knowledge, so that when you're preparing your budget and establishing your incurred but not reported numbers, that you know what the impact's going to be. So if there's an increase in TTD rates, or Florida, they were pushing or removing all the limitations on attorney fees, that's going to increase that claims cost. And so you need to be able to articulate that. And when you have auditors that come in, you need to understand that. For me, it was really important in Oklahoma to be engaged, because Oklahoma is our largest exposure from a claims perspective in comp. Oklahoma's been really challenging. It's been one of the most difficult states. At one time, it was even worse than California for us. Mm-hmm. And so when there was an opportunity to partner with a couple of other companies and make or have an initiative to improve the system, we weren't really looking to do a major change in the beginning. We were just looking for opportunities to really kind of curb those losses and stop the surgeries. The biggest issue that I think employers need to be aware of is the medical cost and potential overtreatment. I speak pretty firmly about how I think employees are our biggest asset. And if you have an employee that's, 20, 25 years old, and they're getting a back surgery, where is that employee going to be, 5 years down the road? And how intense is that surgery going to be? So we really look for conservative treatment, more from the standpoint of our workforce and the betterment of that employee, because the surgeries really take its toll. And so that's one of the reasons we were pretty much engaged in the work comp process, is to really understand the numbers and really understand our workforce and the impact that it would have. So I think it's hugely important to at least know what's going on, so that you can prepare for it and allocate the cost appropriately.
Oh, that's great information. I appreciate that. Earlier on, you mentioned, when staying on top of emerging risks, how important insurance brokers are in that process, and to be able to provide information from that perspective. From your standpoint and perspective, how important is the insurance broker relationship, and how does that intertwine or integrate with your risk management program here?
I think the relationship is hugely important. We've used our broker to help connect us with other peers, to allow us to do those benchmarking. And two of the brokers we work with do formal benchmarking where they bring the groups together and allow us to really talk about our risk independent of the brokers. So they'll actually step out of the hall or step out of the meeting area, the meeting space, and allow that to happen. That's huge. They're also seeing, they can give you the market perspective. Certainly you can, use the articles, but they're much more specific on your industry. And we rely on our brokers to provide some benchmarking information, what they're seeing in our industry. And I think the closer you are with your broker, they're working directly with the underwriters. If you don't have that relationship with the underwriter, the broker tells your story. And so you really need to be engaged in that process and bringing the underwriter up there and making sure that the broker and the underwriter are just as knowledgeable as you want them to be. So, so that you can tell your story, how the broker, supplement in comparison with what they're seeing
Right.
in the industry. So
Making sure everyone's on the same page, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's important.
Yeah.
How would you say the industry can better promote itself to the younger generations?
RIMS does a really great job on Next Gen. So they reach out to a lot of the young people that are coming out of school and really trying to encourage them and help them in some additional accreditations, if you will, and then also providing they do an annual conference. That's really great for those who know they want to be in risk. Certainly I didn't know that at the time. I mean, my major was economics until I got into hobby and then switched to finance and finished my degree. But a lot of people that are in the industry now are in it by chance. That was not their focus. It was not their intention. There are a lot of programs out there in risk management that, like UCO has a great risk management program, and there's significant differences too in different colleges and what risk means to them.
Right.
OU has the financial risk, whereas the casualty, property, the P&C component is really better at UCO. But I think really from the generation coming up, shadowing, doing intern opportunities, just meeting and talking with different employers and understanding that you can go in so many different directions with risk management. I mean, from our perspective, you can do claims, you can do insurance. There's also so many vendor partners that support risk management. So you can just move from one area to the next, and I've seen it over the years where you might start in risk management for an organization, and then you end up on the broker side or the underwriter side, and may be a vendor partner. There's a lot of bill review, case management, those kinds of things. So many people support the insurance industry that it's really a wealth of opportunities for kids that are getting out of school. So really just exposure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really good point that more people should consider, as well as, some of the best brokers I know have been claims adjusters and underwriters, and they've seen a variety of roles within the industry. And I think that really helps them with whatever their final role is as they pick a career, long-term career.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it gives a different perspective. My client executive, she was in the claims industry as well. And she's since retired, but she brought a great perspective, because that was really our focus, is really from a casualty perspective, because we have so many employees nationally. How do we manage that risk?
Right.
So having that insight is really huge.
Yeah. So from a risk management standpoint, what's the greatest lesson you have learned?
Humility. You don't know everything all the time, and just to be able to recognize that every day is a new day, and you're going to learn something new. I mean, I've seen a lot, learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, but really, I think it's important to maintain that humility, because that's you're not going to get very far if you don't acknowledge that you don't know everything. Probably the best experience I've had is just working for a company like Hobby. The great leadership and support that we've had over the years and the encouragement has been huge for me, and allowing the department to grow and really establish, some different, I don't know what I did up here, establish some different roles within risk. You've really got to find your place, though. Hobby isn't for everybody. There's other companies that might fit somebody's needs a little bit better, but it's been a great career opportunity for me, and a great team that we have here. But yeah, I think overall, just through the years that I put a lot of perspective since I've been here, 27 years, that I just need to make sure that I check myself,
right,
when I come in, and respect that I have a lot of people that work for us that do a fantastic job, and they make us look good. So humility.
That's great. Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your time today on the interview. I'm sure it'll be valuable to a lot of the listeners out there. I know it was valuable to me, so I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it, Corbin.